Let me tell you about a coin that quietly stole the spotlight back in the late 1950s and continues to intrigue collectors today. Picture a small piece of history slipping through your fingers, its copper-nickel surface still bearing the faintest hints of its journey through wallets, pockets, and maybe even history-changing events. That's the 1957 Jefferson Nickel, an unassuming workhorse of everyday commerce in its era, yet a fascinating puzzle for anyone who knows what to look for. Its story starts with a design change, but the magic lies in the little quirks and surprises that make certain examples exceptionally rare. The Jefferson Nickel first appeared in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and by 1957 its design, Monticello on the reverse, Jefferson's bust on the obverse, was well established. Yet that year stands out because it was the first time the mint omitted a mint mark from Jefferson nickels produced in Philadelphia, following new regulations meant to discourage hoarding of coins with desirable mint marks. The absence of a small p is a critical detail. Unlike today, where mint marks are proudly displayed, the lack of one in 1957 can be easily overlooked unless you know exactly where to search. A sharp eye, a good loupe, and a clear understanding of the era's rules make the difference between an everyday nickel and a collectible gem. A first run of 1,957 nickels came off the Philadelphia press without any mint mark at all, but a subset of those coins was saved by sharp-eyed mint employees who realized the P had been accidentally omitted. Those issue specimens surfaced decades later, with mint employees turning in rolls they'd squirreled away. Today, a genuine 1957 P. Jefferson nickel specimen, one with an actual Philadelphia P. mint mark struck despite the general omission, can command prices in the tens of thousands of dollars. Auction records show that pristine examples have reached well over $50,000, with the finest known PCGS MS68RD example going for north of $70,000 at a major sale. Even coins graded in the mid-60s, like MS65, routinely fetch five-figure sums because collectors prize the anomaly and the story. Beyond that fascinating mint mark error, regular 1,957 nickels in top condition can also be surprisingly valuable. While a worn example pulled from circulation might be worth a cool 50 cents or a few dollars, an uncirculated specimen in mint state can stretch into the hundreds or even low thousands. Auction houses report that MS63 specimens often sell in the $50 to $100 range, but once you move into MS65 territory, values jump quickly into the mid-hundreds. By MS67, we're talking well over $1,000. Even the subtlest differences in strike quality, luster, and surface preservation can translate to significant value boosts. One quirky story involves a handful of 1,957 nickels discovered in a forgotten bank vault in the Midwest. A local collector acquired a small lot of these coins in the early 2000s and later realized that one of them bore a faint die crack near the date, something so minor it eluded initial inspections. That coin ended up in a private collection with a five-figure valuation due to its uniqueness. It's a reminder that, beyond mint marks, there are die varieties and small planchet flaws that can elevate a common coin into a treasured rarity. Identifying a genuine high-grade 1957 nickel requires attention to several details. Start with the date itself. The digits should look crisp, with fully formed serifs on the numerals. Examine Jefferson's cheekbone and jawline, a strong, well-defined Q shoulder points to a sharp strike. Look at the details on Monticello, specifically, the columns and windows. If those elements are softened or flattened, you're likely looking at a lower grade, which affects value. Uncirculated surfaces should display original mint luster, a satiny sheen that shifts in the light. Any hint of smoothing or contact marks will drag the grade down and, consequently, the price. The story of the Jefferson nickel also intersects with broader historical themes. Released during President Eisenhower's first term, these coins circulated through a booming post-war economy marked by the rise of interstate highways and rock and roll music. They jingled alongside first-run transistor radios and early televisions. If a nickel could talk, the 1957 specimens would tell tales of gas pumps at 25 cents a gallon and 5-cent movie tickets. That tangible link to mid-century America adds an emotional layer for collectors, beyond mere metal content or face value. Finding a 1957 nickel in truly mint condition isn't easy. By the time coinage reaches pocket change distribution, it's endured countless exchanges, shoved into piggy banks, mixed in jars, and lost under car seats. Those who seek high-grade examples often turn to estate sales, old coin albums, and bank hoards that evaded heavy circulation. Even then, only a small percentage of coins emerge from such sources worthy of a top-tier grade. That scarcity underpins the market values and keeps even standard-issue pieces in demand among advanced collectors. Sometimes, planchet variations crop up, like slight differences in the nickel's alloy composition or thickness. While these differences rarely affect intrinsic value, they can matter to specialists who track die varieties and minting anomalies. For instance, a slightly off-center strike can create an off-metal band exposure at the rim, which some graders categorize as a struck-through error. These examples typically don't command as much as a mint mark rarity, but they present an interesting side market for die error enthusiasts. When assessing condition-based value, it helps to break things down into a few key categories. Circulated grades, ranging from good, G, to about uncirculated, AU, carry modest premiums, pennies to a couple of dollars for well-worn pieces. Once a nickel qualifies as uncirculated, MS60 and up, that premium grows sharply. Mid-range mint state coins, MS63, MS65, occupy the sweet spot for many collectors. They show original luster with minimal contact marks and can be affordable entries into high-grade collecting. Top-end survivors, MS66 and above, are where true investment-grade examples live. These coins trade hands among seasoned collectors and investors looking for pieces that might leap in value over time. Mint State 66 examples of the regular, no mint mark 1957 nickel often sell around $500 to $800, depending on market conditions. By contrast, the rare, struck with P pieces have gone 10 times that amount, or more, in recent high-profile auctions. Condition census coins, those with a unique highest certified grade, draw particular attention. When a specimen stands alone as the finest known, even minor blemishes seem forgivable if the coin offers the coveted top slot in grading company records. For those who own common 1957 nickels in well-worn condition, resting easy on their numismatic potential may be premature. Even a mid-grade piece, say in VF30 condition, can be worth several dollars, well above face value. That means your run-of-the-mill pocket find could still net enough for a nice dinner out. If you're uncertain about your coin's grade, having it evaluated by a reputable grading service is a worthwhile step. Slabbing your nickel not only aids in identifying any subtle die varieties or mint errors but also secures its grade for future sales or trades. As you hold a high-grade 1957 nickel in your palm, you're not just looking at metal, you're holding a story that began over 6 decades ago. It passed through countless hands, possibly carried in the pockets of factory workers, schoolchildren, or servicemen returning home. When those surfaces remain crisp, the coin preserves its journey in every microscopic detail, inviting us to become part of its continuing saga. And who knows? Your next mint state find from that quiet year might just be the conversation piece that steals the show at your next collector meetup. Shifting our attention from the 1950s to a more modern era brings us to the 1988 nickel, a coin that looks unremarkable at first glance yet hides stories of production quirks and collector thrills. At face value, it's the familiar profile of Thomas Jefferson on one side and Monticello on the other, struck in the familiar copper-nickel alloy that's been standard since 1946. But beneath its standard exterior, several factors turned certain 1988 specimens into sought-after prizes for specialists and investors alike. Back in 1988, the U.S. Mint was operating at full tilt, filling circulation strikes and special collector sets from its Philadelphia and Denver facilities. The Philadelphia pieces bear no mint mark, as per tradition, while Denver coins are marked with a small D just above the dome of Monticello. That placement can make the D appear weak or even missing on some coins where the die wore down early in the production run. Collectors who spot a fully struck Denver mint mark on a particularly crisp 1988 D nickel know they're looking at one of the cleaner survivors, examples that often bring a modest premium over circulated pieces. One of the most talked about varieties from that year is the 1988 double die obverse, officially catalogued as FS001. In these coins, the doubling is most visible around Jefferson's eye, ear, and the date itself, creating a subtle ghost image that becomes evident under strong light and magnification. The mint corrected the error partway through the year, but by then a few thousand flawed planchets had already passed into circulation and collector rolls. Today, a certified FS001 double die in mint state can command prices ranging from a few $100s for MS63 quality to over $1,000 for MS65 examples. Auction results show that the finest graded specimens, those hitting MS66 or above, occasionally break the $1,500 mark when demand is high at specialized nickel auctions. Beyond the double die, enthusiasts also hunt for full steps nickels, those in which all 7 steps of Monticello's stairs are sharply defined on the reverse. While technically a grade qualifier rather than an error, full steps examples from 1988 are prized because they indicate a complete, well-struck coin that avoided the die wear plaguing many circulation pieces. In mid-range mint state, a non-error full steps nickel might sell for $5 to $15. As you move into MS65, MS67 territory, those values can climb into the $50 to $200 range, depending on eye appeal, luster, and whether any annoying bag marks interrupt the surface. Collectors love to share stories about how these nickels surface. One Florida dealer recalls buying a monster box of 1988 D nickels at a local bank in the early 2000s and stumbling upon a handful of FS001 double dies. What looked like ordinary pocket change became a treasure trove, netting him over $10,000 when those error coins were slabbed and sold individually. On forums, you'll read about similar finds in old coin rolls, where patient numismatists spot the faint doubling without ever expecting it from a modern-era issue. When it comes to market value, the baseline for 1988 nickels is still face value for well-circulated pieces, just 5 cents a piece. But examine any with care, and even a coin taken from a jar of pocket change can reveal die doubling or unusually sharp strike detail worthy of grading. And $55, about uncirculated, specimen showing no trace of wear might fetch 50 cents to $1. At $58, where light bag marks alone betray its circulation history, values climb into the $2 to $5 range. That spike reflects collector preference for high-grade survivors from a run of nearly 700 million Philadelphia pieces and over 450 million Denver pieces combined. Proof versions add another layer of interest. The 1988 proof nickel, struck in the San Francisco Mint and bearing a tiny S mint mark, features deeply mirrored fields and frosted devices. Collectors prize examples with strong cameo contrast. Standard proof coins in pristine PR69 condition regularly trade in the $15 to $25 bracket, while rare PR70 full cameo examples, those with blazing white devices that seem to float above the mirror, can command $100 or more when sold through specialist auction houses or coin shop networks. A fun anecdote involves a retired engineer from Ohio who discovered a 1988 S-proof nickel in a drawer full of mint sets he'd acquired decades earlier. Misplaced among state quarters and commemorative issues, the nickel went unnoticed until he decided to liquidate his collection in 2020. The slabbed PR70 came up at auction with a starting bid of $50 but closed north of $120 once bidders realized how few flawless cameo proofs from that year still survive untinted and free of microabrasions. Die varieties beyond doubling include faint cut marks, those telltale blobs of metal that chip off from a die's edge and reattach to its face. In 1988 nickels, a few specimens show a small cut on Monticello's roofline, typically at the right-hand edge. These variations were never officially listed by the Mint but have been catalogued in specialized Jefferson Nickel reference guides. They often trade for modest premiums, think $20 to $50 for high-grade coins, yet they delight specialists who focus on die errors. When evaluating condition-based values, the grade spectrum delivers predictable jumps. Circulated grades, good through VF20, garner little interest beyond their face value, though a clean, lustrous VF20 might trade for 15 to 20 cents among neighborhood collectors. EF4045 coins, where most wear is confined to Jefferson's hair and Monticello's roof, can bring $1 to $2. Mint state coins, starting at MS60, represent a turning point: raw, slippery surfaces with virtually no wear, yet often marred by contact marks or slight luster breaks. MS63 FS examples, the sweet spot for many, hover around $15 to $25. Move up to MS65 FS, and you're looking at $50 to $75. The very best, like MS67 with full steps and eye-catching luster, occasionally fetch $300 or more. Auction records underline those numbers. A heritage auction sale in late 2023 featured an MS66 1988 PFS 001 double die that hammered at $1,620, including buyer's premium. Around the same time, an MS67 1988 D full steps example reached $280. These results illustrate how error coins can dramatically outpace even the finest regular issues in value. The doubling variety commands a distinct collector following that pushes prices skyward when quality aligns with rarity. Aside from auction houses, online marketplaces like eBay and specialized forums serve as barometers of current demand. A quick search reveals multiple listings for 1988 double dies, with "buy it now" prices ranging from $350 for lower-tier slabs to over $1,200 for top-grade pieces. Watching sold listings rather than active ones gives a clearer picture. When a certified MS64 FS 001 closes at $450, you know that the market for these nickels remains robust. Collecting modern-era nickels like the 1988 variety offers a mix of accessibility and challenge. Their high mintage makes everyday examples cheap to acquire, allowing newcomers to hunt for error coins without hefty upfront costs. Yet the subtlety of doubling, cut marks, and full steps qualifications means that spotting the gems rewards a trained eye and a loop. For longtime collectors, the thrill lies in uncovering a diamond in the rough, a coin among millions that bears a mistake small enough to escape notice at the vending machine. Whether you're upgrading a hole-filled binder of pocket change or pursuing the thrill of a slab-worthy find, the 1988 nickel offers plenty of reasons to look more closely at the coins jangling in your pocket. A contemporary issue may seem mundane, but it carries within it the potential for discovery. Finding an FS 001 double die dealer's strike or a pristine full steps mint state piece injects excitement into modern collecting. And as market trends show, those exceptional specimens will continue to reward sharp-eyed enthusiasts with both numismatic satisfaction and solid investment returns. Sliding from the high-energy pop culture of the late 1980s into the heart of the 1960s, our final stop lands on the 1964 Jefferson Nickel, a seemingly ordinary piece that quietly marks the end of an era for circulating coinage metals and sneakily harbors some rare surprises. You might think a nickel from 1964 would be plain, no mint mark on Philadelphia strikes, a small D for Denver, copper-nickel alloy familiar to all. Yet when you look closer, you'll find little quirks that send experienced collectors on a treasure hunt. The story begins in a world still humming with the optimism of post-war expansion yet shadowed by Cold War tensions. In mid-1964, Congress debated whether to remove silver from dimes and quarters because hoarding had drained mint inventories. Nickels, safe in their copper-nickel blend since 1946, weren't on the chopping block, but they shared the spotlight during production changes. Philadelphia continued its no-mint mark tradition, and Denver applied the D above Monticello. Those simple marks help us trace each piece's journey from press to pocket and alert us to varieties worth owning. One of the most coveted varieties for this issue is the 1964 double die obverse, classified as FS 101. Look closely at Jefferson's portrait under strong lighting. You may see a subtle ghost of his eye and the date shifting slightly off its centerline. That doubling occurred early in the 1964 run, before mint technicians caught the misalignment. Certified FS 101 examples in high grade have sold at auction for up to $1,200 in MS-65, with the finest known MS-67 fetching closer to $4,000 when demand peaks. These prices reflect a small pool of survivors, only a few thousand struck, and far fewer that escaped circulation damage. Beyond doubling, collectors prize the full steps reverse for 1964, where Monticello's 7 stairs appear razor-sharp against the flat field. While not an error in the traditional sense, full steps coins prove that the dies were fresh and the strike powerful before the inevitable wear blurs those details. In mid-grade mint state, a 1964 full steps nickel might trade hands for $10 to $20. As you climb into MS-65 or MS-66 territory, prices climb into the low hundreds, reflecting the premium placed on pleasing eye appeal and original luster. One intriguing anecdote involves a batch of 1964 nickels recovered from a bank error bag in Iowa. A teller accidentally mixed uncirculated pieces with new rolls headed for circulation. A local dealer grabbed the bag and discovered several full steps examples alongside an FS 101 double die. None were damaged, clear evidence that unchecked human error at the mint and bank vaults spawned some of the best collectibles. When that lot reached auction in 2018, passionate bidders pushed the total high-grade haul past $15,000, a testament to enduring interest in these mid-century pieces. Spotting cherry red toning on a 1964 nickel is rare, most circulate far too much to develop colorful patina. But a handful of pieces stored in paper envelopes for decades show hints of rose or gold toning on Jefferson's cheek and Monticello's columns. Those natural color flashes don't add huge premiums, perhaps $50 to $100 above grade value, but they offer an aesthetic twist that grabs attention in display cases and online galleries. Condition remains king when it comes to value. A heavily worn G4 or F12 example might be worth a quarter or two above face, more because of date interest than metal content. Coins in VF20 to VF30, where Jefferson's hairlines and building details are visible but show light smoothing, usually fetch anywhere from 50 cents to $1.50. Once you hit -50 Australian dollars, about uncirculated, with only faint contact marks on the highest points, values jump to $2 to $4. By -58 Australian dollars, when mere bag marks betray minimal handling, a coin might command $5 to $10. Entering the mint state realm, MS-60 and above, transforms your nickel from everyday pocket change into a collectible investment. MS-62 pieces with modest luster breaks are often available for $20 to $30. Moving up to MS-64, where surfaces appear smooth and lightly reflective, you might pay $50 to $75. In the MS-65 to MS-66 range, prices begin to swell toward the $150 to $300 mark, especially for full-step survivors. MS-67 jewels, often highlighted in major auctions, can rally bidders into the four-figure zone when eye appeal and strike perfection align. Auction records confirm those trends. A heritage sale in early 2024 saw an MS-66 1964 FS 101 double die hammer at $3,800 plus premium, while a superb MS-67 full steps example brought $1,200. These headline figures drive home how rare high-grade errors can eclipse even the finest regular issues by a substantial margin. Investors and hobbyists alike track online marketplaces for fresh finds. Watching sold listings rather than active asks gives better insight. When an MS-64 full steps piece closes at $80, you know the market is holding firm. Vice versa, if an MS-62 FS 101 fails to meet reserve at $400, it may hint at shifting demand or overpricing. For those serious about building a quality set of 1964 nickels, submission to leading grading services adds confidence and transparency to each purchase or sale. As we wrap up, picture holding 3 nickels, 1957, 1988, and 1964, each from a distinct chapter of American coinage. The 1957 nickel captures a mint in transition, accidentally omitting mint marks and producing prized error specimens. The 1988 issue showcases modern-era quirks like double dies and full steps varieties amid massive production runs. The 1964 nickel stands at the crossroads of metal content debates and mint perfection, hiding subtle varieties that reward a trained eye. Together, these coins offer more than face value. They're tangible snapshots of U.S. history, mint technology, and the thrill of discovery. Whether you're upgrading a childhood collection, tapping into change jars, or hunting specialist errors at auction, these nickels remind us that the most humble coin can carry a story worth thousands. Keep your loupe polished, your light source bright, and your reference guides close. Those familiar profiles of Jefferson and Monticello might appear predictable, until you catch that flash of doubling, the glint of full stair steps, or the whisper of an unofficial mint mark. In numismatics, as in life, beauty and value often hide in plain sight. Let your next nickel find be the one that transforms pocket change into prized keepsake.